Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make the dress that you've just seen at the beginning of the video. And for the materials, you will need yarn. The yarn that I used for this beautiful maxi dress is Alize Cotton Gold. It's 55% cotton, 45% acrylic, and each ball is 361 yards, as you can see here. I used approximately 4 balls of yarn. The hook that I'm using is a 3mm plus a 4mm. So for the start of the project, I'll be using a 3mm, and then we shall transition into a 4mm later on. And then you also need a darning needle and a measuring tape, and of course a pair of scissors, because we need to cut off the loose ends. So let's jump right in. We are going to start off with the bra cups, and if you'd like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops, and I'll be leaving a link behind for you to grab a copy if you wish. So you're going to grab your yarn and your 3mm crochet hook. We are going to first start with the 3mm, and we work the bra cups as well as the very first part of the mesh pattern, and then we shall transition into the 4mm crochet hook. So we're starting off with a slip knot, and we're going to make a chain, and I'll be recommending a number of chains depending on the different sizes. So for me, I started with a chain of 16, and I am making for a medium size. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 and 16. So I have my 16 chains here. You're going to go into the 4th chain from the hook with a double crochet. So this pattern is explained in US terms. So you're going to double crochet into each and every chain after that, along our chain that we made at first. So into each and every chain, you're going to go in there with 1 double crochet. So when you get to the very last chain, this is what you should have. In the last chain, you're going to place a total of 5 double crochets. This is quite different from what we usually do. Just like that, a total of 5 double crochets. And then you're going to get a stitch marker and mark the middle double crochet, which is the 3rd double crochet of the 5 double crochets that you just placed. And then you're going to go towards the back of the foundation chain and place 1 double crochet in each and every chain. So make sure you don't miss any chain. So while I'm working on the back side of the foundation chain, I'm also weaving in this tail, as you can see here. I hold it along the foundation chain and I work around it. So continue to double crochet in each and every chain on the opposite side of the foundation chain. And don't forget to go into this last one. Go in there with a double crochet, and this marks the end of row 1. So you'll notice that our rows are going to be worked in a U shape. We're going to go back and forth like this until our bra cup grows to our desired size. So we're going to go on to row 2, and row 2 is going to be our repeat row until we get enough coverage. So for row 2, you're going to start off with a chain of 3, which counts as a double crochet. Turn your work, this double crochet is attached to the very first stitch here, so you're going to go into the next stitch with a double crochet and continue to double crochet once in each and every stitch until you place a double crochet in the stitch before the stitch marker. Alright, so we've placed a double crochet in the stitch before the stitch marker. Now into the stitch with the stitch marker, you're going to remove this stitch marker, and into that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a total of 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all in the same stitch. And then you're going to mark the third double crochet or the middle double crochet of the 5 stitches that you just placed, and then continue to place 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until the end of the row. Alright, so we are coming to the end of the row, and don't forget to place 1 double crochet into the very last chain 3 on top of the chain 3, because the chain 3 at the beginning of the row counts as a stitch. So make sure you go on top of that chain 3 with a double crochet. So this is what you're going to have, and we're going to keep working back and forth in a U shape until we get enough coverage for our bra cup. So we're going to repeat row 2 again and again for a specific number of rows. I'll also be recommending a number of rows for the different sizes in my next clip, but we are basically repeating the row that we just worked. So make sure you always start with a chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, and then turn your work and go into the next stitch with a double crochet. Continue to double crochet in each and every stitch until the stitch before the stitch marker, and then in the stitch with the stitch marker you're going to place your 5 double crochets, and then continue to place 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until the end of the row. So that's basically it. Let me go ahead and keep growing my bra cup, and I'll be back to show you what to do next. Alright guys, so I repeated row 2 until I had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 rows. And taking a measurement of my bra cup, I have about 7 inches at the base, and this is going to vary depending on the size that you're making for. So I'm making for a size medium, and this is 7 inches. So I'll be mentioning how many inches you should be having at the base of your bra cup by now. And then we're having a total of about 6.5 inches deep for the bra cup. And also I'll be mentioning how many inches to consider having at this point. Now we're going to go ahead and create this beautiful edging that is going to blend in so well with our mesh pattern at the base of the dress. So to do this, after your last row, this is row 8 for me, Actually, this is the end of my last row of the bra cup. Can cut off this excess yarn in the middle, and just like that we're going to go ahead and create a mesh pattern and then create a picot stitch on the edge. So you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1, turn your work, skip the next stitch, and into the next you're going to place a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next, and that is going to create a mesh pattern on the outside edge of the bra cup. So you're going to do this until you're almost at the center peak of your bra cup, and then I'll show you how to cross over to the other side. Alright guys, we're almost at the midpoint of the bra cup. Now I've placed a double crochet here, and I'm going to make a chain of 1, and into the exact middle stitch I'm going to place 1 double crochet, and then after this double crochet I'm going to make a chain of 3 and double crochet again into the same exact space, and then we're going to mirror what we have on this side onto the opposite side. So chain 1, skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next. So you're going to go all the way down, creating a mesh pattern on the second side of the bra cup. Alright, so we've come to the end of the row, and I'm placing my last double crochet on top of the chain 3 of the previous row. This is what we have. Now after your mesh row, we are now going to create the picot stitch, as you can see here. We've now finished the mesh row, and now we're going to create the picot stitch. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and into the very first chain 1 space you're going to place a single crochet, chain 3, and then go into the 2 front loops of the single crochet that you just placed, and then make a slip stitch and single crochet again into the same exact chain 1 space. So we've created our first picot, and then into the next chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch at the front 2 loops of the single crochet, and then single crochet again in the same space. So those are 2 picot stitches, and for me this is going to be the wrong side of my work because the picot stitch is going to pop on the opposite side. So the wrong side of the picot stitch is going to be the right side of my bra cup. So let's go ahead and repeat that. Into the next chain 1 space, 1 single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch at the base of the single crochet, and then single crochet again in the same space. So you're going to do that all the way up until you get to the top of the bra cup, and I'll show you how to go past this point. All right, so after making it all the way up, you can see the right side of the bra cup where the picot stitch is popping on the outside edge of the piece. Now once you get to the top here, you're going to go into the chain 3 space at the top of the bra cup with a total of 3 single crochets, this time no picot stitch, and then continue with the picot stitch on the second half of your bra cup, just as we've been doing. So in the next chain 1 space, you single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch, and single crochet again into the same space. And as you can see, we've created a picot stitch in the chain 1 space right after the V-stitch that we created at the top of our bra cup. And you're going to go all the way down doing this and creating picot stitches on the second half of the bra cup. So go all the way down, and I will meet you when I am through with my second side of the bra cup. Alright, so I'm through with the second side. You can stretch out your work a little bit so that it's not so tight on the edges, and also to give your bra cup shape. And you can see what we have here. It's the same exact thing that we have on the opposite side. So you see, once you're done with your very last stitch, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to weave in. Then you can pull through. So you can introduce your second bra cup. This is what we have. And now after making your 2 bra cups, we are now going to go to the lower section of our dress, and we're going to create the mesh pattern. As you can see here, I'm going to teach you how to do this in order to achieve the dress that you just saw at the beginning of the video. So this mesh pattern is started from this point. We spread it out, create coverage for the hips, create increases, and yeah, everything will flow very nicely. So let's go on to the mesh pattern and we learn how to make the lower section of the dress. This is done for now. Alright guys, now to start on the mesh pattern, you're going to make a slip knot, and still we are using a 3mm crochet hook, and you're going to make a chain of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So when you have your 9 chains, you're going to go into the very first chain with a double crochet. So you're going to yarn over and double crochet into the first chain, and this is what you're going to have. Now for row 2, you're going to make a chain of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then you're going to turn your work and single crochet into the space, and then you're going to make a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then counting from the base of this chain, you're going to go into the third chain. 1, 2, 3, and you're going to place a double crochet there in the third chain, counting from the base. So this is what you're going to have. So this is the end of row 2. For row 3, you're going to make a chain of 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the chain of 8 at the beginning of the row counts as a double crochet, chain 5. Turn your work into the first chain 5 space. You're going to place a single crochet and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the last chain 8 space, and then make a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then double crochet into the third chain, counting from the base of this chain, the last chain 8 space of the previous row. So you're going to yarn over, count from the base, 1, 2, and into the third you're going to place a double crochet, just like that. So you're going to notice that the number of mesh spaces keeps increasing. So let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the row starts with a chain of 8, which counts as a double crochet chain 5. Turn your work into the first chain 5 space. You're going to place a single crochet, and then now we're going to just make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 space, and you're going to repeat that until you place a single crochet into the last chain 8 space of the previous row. So chain 5 and single crochet into the last chain 8 space of the previous row, and then you're going to make a chain of 5, and you're going to count from the base of the last chain 8 and into the third chain 1, 2, and into the third you're going to place a double crochet. Okay, so this is what we have. Let me demonstrate that one more time for row 5. Chain 8, which counts as a double crochet chain 5, 5, 6, 7, 8. Turn your work, single crochet into the very first chain 5 space, and then chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space. You're going to repeat that until you place a single crochet in the last chain 8 space of the previous row. So chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 5. So now we are single crocheting into the last chain 8 space of the previous row. So in the middle it's just chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 space. You do that until you have 1 space left, and then you'll make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the last chain 8 space of the previous row, just like this. And then you're going to make a chain of 5 and double crochet into the third chain, counting from the base of the chain 8 of the previous row. So 1, 2, 3, and into the third chain you're going to place a double crochet there. So we're basically going to keep repeating this, and you can see how our mesh pattern is spreading outwards and creating coverage. So we're going to repeat this row again and again until we get to our waistline level. So for me, I'm going to keep working until I have about 5 inches or 6 inches, and then I'll come back and show you what I'll have, and then we shall see how to put everything together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. So you should notice that the number of mesh spaces keeps increasing by 1 for each new row. So for row 1 we have 1 space, row 2 we have 2 spaces, row 3 we have 3 spaces, and so on and so forth. Your work is going to be growing in a triangular shape. So keep repeating this row until you get the number of inches that you need from your underbust all the way to your waistline, and then I'll show you what to do from there. Alright guys, so I have a total of about 5.5 inches when I slightly stretch my piece, and you can see it's spreading outwards. I have about 5.5, but when fully stretched it can get to 6 inches. So you're going to take a measurement across without stretching. I have about 11 inches, and I'm going to make an extension that can wrap around the waistline, which is the waistline circumference that I am considering is 26 inches. So I'm going to do a chain that can get to 26. So this is 11. That means I'm going to add 15 inches extension. and that chain should be a multiple of 3 plus 2 chains. So let me go ahead and make my chain. After my last double crochet here, I'm going to make my chain of 15, and the chain here is the difference between your waistline circumference and the measurement that you have across right here. So 26 minus the 11 is 15. So that's the chain that I'm going to end up working on, and should be a multiple of 3 plus 2 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright guys, so I've done a total of 80 chains in order to get the 15 inches. As you can see, I'm not stretching my work at all. So your chain should be a multiple of 3 plus 2 chains. So for me, I've done a total of 80. So you're now going to make sure that your chain is not twisted, and we're going to join in the round. You're going to get the opposite side of your project, and you're going to count from the base 1, 2, and into the third chain you're going to make a slip stitch. So that way you should have half of your waistline circumference minus stretching. So remember, our waistline is 26. I should be able to get 13 inches without stretching, as you can see here. So 13 inches is here. So when I stretch, it goes even beyond to about 17 inches. So the fact that my yarn is quite stretchy, it's really forgiving. So once I make a slip stitch here, I am going to make 2 slip stitches into the very first chain 5 space, and then make a chain of 1 and turn my work so that I'm working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And then I'm going to make a single crochet into that space, and you can see the single crochet is placed in the middle. So after this, I'm going to make a chain of 5, and then I'm going to skip over this space and count 2 chains, 1, 2, and into the third I'm going to make a single crochet. And at this point you can mark that very first loop of your row, because now we are working in rounds. This is actually round 1. So you're going to make a chain of 5, skip 2 chains, and single crochet into the next chain, and you're going to repeat this all the way across. Chain 5, skip 2 chains, single crochet into the next chain. Chain 5, skip 2 chains, and single crochet into the next chain. So we're going to repeat this all the way across. Chain 5, skip 2 chains, and single crochet into the next. So do this all the way across the extension chain, and I'll meet you back towards the mesh pattern. Alright guys, we've come towards the end of the mesh of the chain, the extension chain. This is what you should have. You should make sure that your work is not twisted, as you can see here. And then you should have a total of 2 chains left, and you're going to make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So that way we have crossed over to this side, and you're going to just keep making a chain of 5 and single crocheting into the next chain 5 loop. Chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So keep doing this until you come to the end of the row where we have the stitch marker. Remember this stitch marker that we placed in the very first chain 5 loop of our project. Just walk across until towards that stitch marker. Alright guys, so we're almost reaching the stitch marker. And alright, so when you get to this point, we have the loop, the very first loop marked with a stitch marker, but this was the very first single crochet of the round. So I have a chain of 5 here. After placing a single crochet into the last loop of the previous row, you're going to make a chain of 5 and slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round. And this is what you should have. So we've just joined in the round and we're going to keep working downwards. But remember, we considered this to be the waistline circumference. That means this is not going to be covering our hips, especially for the people who have a very big ratio between the waistline circumference and the hip circumference. So we shall cater for that later on. So you should realize that if we keep ending our row here, we may get a seam line at the front of our work. So what I'm going to do is make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn, and I'm going to attach my yarn at the back, the mid back of my project. You're going to just locate one of the loops at the back of your work and you're going to attach your yarn, and you're going to make sure that you attach it in the opposite, working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So I'm going to just locate maybe this one, and I'm going to attach my yarn there into the middle of the chain 5 loop. And we are now going to go to round 2. So for round 2, you're going to make a single crochet here, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, making sure that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. And then you're going to mark the very first loop. That is the very first loop of the round, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. You're going to repeat this all the way around until you come back to this very first loop, and I'll show you how to wind up. Two, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. Alright guys, so we're almost coming to the end of the round. And once you place a single crochet in the chain 5 loop before, this one with a stitch marker, this time round you're going to do something different. You're going to make a chain of 2 and double crochet into the very first single crochet of the round. That way we shall be in the middle of the loop here. So you're going to see how that works out for round 3. So you're going to remove your stitch marker and then make a chain of 1 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So this is round 3. You just make a single crochet into that very stitch there, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then you can mark the very first loop with a stitch marker, and then continue with chain 5 single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So you're going to repeat that until you place a single crochet in this last loop, and then make a chain of 2 and double crochet into the first single crochet of the round. And that's all that we're going to keep repeating until we get to our waistline level. So until we get to the lower waistline, actually, we're supposed to create some increases. So I'm going to just work a few inches, because at this point we are at the upper waistline, but we want to make some plain rounds before we start increasing for the hips. Alright guys, so I decided to make just 3 rounds actually of the mesh pattern. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3 at the back. At the front they appear to be more because we already have this extension at the front. So you're going to place your work like this so that you're literally, this pointed part is in the middle of your project. Now you're going to get 2 stitch markers of the same exact color, and you're going to mark the side loops where we're going to create increases for the hips. Remember, this is covering for our waistline, but you're now going to try to stretch out your piece. So you see these 2 stitch markers here. They're the points where we are going to place our increases to accommodate the hips. So what we are going to do is to take this measurement while stretching it. So we have about 17 inches. Don't overstretch, because at the end of the day we still need that drapiness of the mesh pattern. So I'll actually consider 16 inches. Just stretch it slightly. I'll consider 16, and I want to get to 20 inches when slightly stretched. I don't want to stretch out my mesh pattern and then it ends up looking like this. I want it to look something like this. So I'm going to consider slight stretches. So we have our stitch markers here, and now we are going to pick up from where we left off our previous round, and then make a chain of 1, turn your work. So we are basically going to do the same exact instructions as round 3. You're going to single crochet into that very stitch, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then you replace the stitch marker. Remember the stitch marker of the first loop. This just helps us to remember where the round stops. So chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and we're going to repeat this until we get to the first side stitch marker where we're supposed to create increases for the hips. So we are almost coming to the first side stitch marker. So I'm placing a single crochet here before the loop with a stitch marker. And then you're going to remove that stitch marker from there, and then make a chain of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then into the loop that had the stitch marker, you're going to place a double crochet, chain 5, and another double crochet into the same exact. Alright, so this is the loop that had our stitch marker. So after your chain of 5, you're going to go into that loop that had the stitch marker with a single crochet, chain 5, and then single crochet into the same exact loop, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So we are marking this one, the one that has created a small loop here. This is our increase, and then you're going to go ahead and chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and repeat that until you get to your next side stitch marker. Alright, so we've reached the loop with the second stitch marker or the side stitch marker. You're going to make a chain of 5 and single crochet into that loop that had the stitch marker, chain 5, single crochet into the same loop that had the stitch marker, and then mark that little loop that we have just created. That will be our increase point, and then finish up your round by chaining 5 and single crocheting into the next chain 5 loop. And when you come towards the end, remember how we end our round. After placing this single crochet, you're going to make a chain of 2 and then double crochet into the very first single crochet of the round to finish off your round. Now you're going to remove the stitch marker, and that marks the end of round 4, which is our very first increase round. So round 5, you're going to make a chain of 1, turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round, single crochet into that very stitch, and then make a chain of 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then you're going to mark the very first loop just to help us locate where the round ends at the end of the round. Then chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. You're going to repeat this until you get to the side stitch marker where the increase is. We are at the point where the side stitch marker is. You see that little loop? This time round we are not going to create an increase, so you're just going to remove the stitch marker, chain 5 and single crochet into that chain 5 loop, that little loop, and then chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So you're going to mark the middle stitch, the single crochet that you've just placed in the little loop. We are just maintaining the placement of the stitch marker so that we see the line along which we increase. So from here you're just going to make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and repeat that until we get to our second side stitch marker, and then we shall do the same exact thing that we've done on this side. Alright, so we've made it to our second side stitch marker. You're going to remove it and then make a chain of 5, single crochet into that small loop, chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then mark the single crochet that you have placed into the little loop, and then you are going to finish off with chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. Do that until the end of the round. Alright, so we're coming to the end of the round. 1 2 3 4 5, single crochet into the last chain 5 loop, chain 2 and double crochet into the first single crochet of the round, and that way we have finished round 5. You can remove this stitch marker. So let's see the increase points. These are going to be our increase points. You can see how your work is now spreading outwards. So we're going on to round 6. We start the round the same exact way. You make a chain of 1 and single crochet into that very stitch, chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then mark the very first loop. Chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and you're going to repeat that until we get to our first side increase. So remember, for the previous round we placed the stitch marker into a single crochet stitch. So I'm going to make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the chain 5 loop before the stitch marker, and then I'm going to remove the stitch marker and make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then I'm going to place the stitch marker into that loop, the loop right above the single crochet that had the stitch marker. That's where you're going to place your stitch marker, and then continue to chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So you're going to repeat this across the front stretch of your work until you get to your second side stitch marker, where we shall do the same exact thing that we've done here. I'll be walking you through. Alright, so we've reached the second side stitch marker. So after placing a single crochet in the loop before the stitch marker, remove your stitch marker, make a chain of 5, and then skip the single crochet that had the stitch marker, and then single crochet into the next chain 5 loop, and then replace the stitch marker in the loop right above the single crochet that had the stitch marker on the previous round. And then you're going to continue to make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. That's all that you're going to repeat until the end of the round. So we have created an increase at this point, but it's going to be subtle so that it doesn't create a bulge on our hips. You can see how our work is spreading out, but steadily. So we're going to finish up our round 6. Chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So I've come to the end of round 6, and I'm chaining 2 and double crocheting into the first single crochet of the round. So you can remove the stitch marker at the beginning of the round, and then make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So our repeat rounds are round 4 to 6. So that means round 7 is going to resemble round 4. So just rewind the video and make use of the timestamps and repeat rows 4 to 6, rounds 4 to 6, until the base of your piece measures your hip circumference when slightly stretched. So before we had 16 inches when slightly stretched, and at this point we have about 17. So that means I'm going to do about 3 more repeats before I get to 20 inches when slightly stretched. So you can see how your work should be spreading outwards. That is to create hip accommodation. So far I have about 17 inches when slightly stretched, and I want half of the hip circumference, which is 20 inches. So let me keep working rounds 4 to 6 until I get to that point, and I'll show you what to do next. Alright guys, so we have done our increases until this can slightly stretch to our 20 inches. As you can see, without stretching we're at 19 inches, but when slightly stretched we can get to 20 inches, as you can see here. And I've ended on a row or a round that looks like round 6. So you're going to remove your side stitch markers because you're going to stop increasing on the sides of our work, and we're just going to continue to mark the very first loop just to know where the round ends. So from now on we're just going to this is the non-increase round, so you make a chain of 1 and turn your work, single crochet into the same exact stitch just as we've been doing before, and then make a chain of 5 and single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. And we're going to just repeat this all the way across. Remember, we are no longer increasing. Chain 5, single crochet into the next chain 5 loop. So you're going to keep doing this around and around, and when you come back, don't forget to always mark the very first loop so that we know where the round ends. When you come back to the beginning, after placing a single crochet here, you just make a chain of 2 and double crochet into the first single crochet of the round, just as we've been doing before. So I'm going to go ahead and keep working until I get the length of the dress that I want downwards, because now we are just repeating the non-increase round again and again until we get our desired dress length. All right, so I'm making my last chain 5. You're going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round, and then you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. So this is going to take you a while to build the length of the dress because the mesh pattern is not as big as the one that we had in our beach cover up. This is quite small for those people who are a little bit scared of the big mesh. So you're going to weave in your tail, and guys, I did a total of 120 rounds right from when we extended the back chain. So from here, that extension chain that joins into the round, we have a total of 120 rounds. And I love the drape of this yarn. Actually, it has a bounciness to it, and it creates a very beautiful effect for a cover up. So I'm glad when it comes to my yarn choice for this design, I made a really good one. So we're going to go back to the top of our mesh pattern. You're going to make sure that you weave in your tails very well, and then I'll weave in the last ones later on. So we're going to go back to our mesh pattern and then introduce our bra cups. Remember, we are already done with the bra cups, so basically everything is just working in our favor. You see that? Actually, this is the right side of the bra cup. Make sure you lay your work in the best way possible. So what we are going to do right now is to attach the mesh pattern onto our bra cups. But before we do that, we are going to turn this into a round, and that is going to be very easy. If you watched my goddess crochet skirt, you know very well that we literally created a ring without having an actual ring. So that's what I'm going to do. That's the same exact concept that I'm going to apply to the top of the mesh pattern. So I'm going to make a slip knot. Using my 3mm. And we're going to insert our hook and attach our yarn. And when you attach your yarn, you're going to actually make sure you weave in these tails as you go around this spot here. We're going to go around this piece. So just single crochet tightly. Make sure your stitches are tight and place as many single crochets as there can be in this space, but making sure they don't overlap. I'm not going to dictate the number of single crochets that you should have, and you can see I'm weaving in these tails as I go. So once you get done with this side, you're going to turn your work and then work at the base of the V-stitch and then back to where the single crochets start from. So after weaving in these tails, I can get rid of them actually. Yeah, because they will be a little bit confusing. So you're going to go into this space and continue to single crochet. So the number of single crochets that you make for this side, you make sure you do the same on this side. So I've done a total of 4 before this single crochet here. So I'm going to make sure I also make a total of 4 on this side. And then go on to this last side and single crochet. Make sure the stitches are a bit tight and close to each other, just to make this look like a ring. So let's see what we have. You see what we've gotten? This looks like a ring. So let me place one more and then slip stitch on top of the first single crochet of the round. Make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to weave in. So guys, look what we have. We have created a ring without actually having one. And then you're going to get your darning needle and weave in this tail. I hope it's not so big for the stitches. You're going to turn your work to the back and go into random stitches, making sure that you weave it in back and forth into different stitches. Oh my god, the stitches are quite tight, but we shall work with what we have. Okay, so you're going to cut your yarn, and this is the ring that we have created today. We're going to go ahead and attach that ring to what we have. So I'm going to get just I think a darning needle. I think I'm going to sew them, the break-ups onto the ring that we just created. Okay, so place your work like this, and then we're going to attach this area here, and I think the picot stitch, the very first picot stitch. So this we are considering 3 and 4, and then 4 stitches on this side as well. So get your 4 stitches towards this side and attach. One. Just find the best way to attach. So I'm also attaching the picot stitch, and this is what we have on one of the sides. Then I'm going to just go into the next stitch and start attaching on this side as well, starting with a picot stitch. and then the mesh row. 1, 2, and 3. So just make sure your work is balanced. And then I've also noticed something, the ring is kind of flipping over, so it's not flat. So what we are going to do is to attach that ring onto the row below. So after attaching your 2 backups, you're going to go into these spaces, into the stitches of the ring, and we are going to attach them onto the mesh rows below so that it can lie flat. I hope that makes sense. We're just looking for the best look for our piece. So make sure you go into the stitches of the ring, the single crochet stitches, and then you weave them onto the mesh rows at the base of the ring. So that is going to create something like this. We don't have to worry about the ring flipping over like this. That look is what we are trying to eliminate. So just like that, we have a ring effect that has been created. So once you're done attaching, you just go into the several stitches until you get next to the tail that you started with, and you can go ahead and tie a knot. Then maybe cut your yarn or weave in your tails. I don't want to have anything shabby around this point because it's going to be a center of attention. So I'm going to weave in these areas. So we're going to now go onto the straps. Before we weave in all our tails, we're going to go onto the straps and also to clean up the base of our piece. So what we're going to do is, this is actually the right side of our work. So I'm going to attach my yarn into the very last double crochet row before the mesh pattern, or let's attach into the ring where the backup attaches onto the ring, that point there. And then we're going to clean up the edges. You're going to go into the double crochet row before the mesh pattern and place 2 single crochets. You're going to continue to place 2 single crochets in each and every row across, and then we create a strap on the side of our piece. So we've made it all the way across, and you're going to go into the mesh row and place 2 double crochets there, and then we're now going to create our very first side strap. So to do that, you're going to make a chain of 3 and go into the same space with a double crochet, chain 3, double crochet into the space between the 2 stitches below, and you're going to repeat that, chain 3, double crochet into the space below the in between the 2 stitches below. So that is going to kind of create these segments. We want a total of 20 segments. So that's a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let me go ahead and make a total of 20 segments, and I'll be back to show you what to do next. So you can do more than 20 segments if you want longer straps, but my comfortable spot is 20, and that should be enough for the small sizes, medium. But if you have a wider rib cage, then consider making maybe 30 segments of this strap, or even more if you wish. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. Okay guys, I ended up doing a total of 30 segments because 20 turned out to be very short. So let me take a measurement here just to give you a bigger picture of what I have. I have about maybe 20 inches when I stretch my strap, and that should be enough, even more than enough. So yeah, for the bigger sizes, maybe you could consider 40 to 50 segments. You're going to make a chain of 1, cut your yarn and pull through. Then you can cut off the excess. So this is what we have. So we're going to go onto the opposite side, and we want this single crochet to be facing the right side of our work. But this time around, sorry, if we start from this side, we're going to have the single crochet row facing the wrong side of our dress. So what I've decided to do is to first create the strap and then attach it and clean up the bottom edge of my second bra cup. So you're going to make a slip knot and then make a chain of 4, 1 2 3 4, and into the very first chain you're going to place a double crochet, just like that, and then chain 3, double crochet in between the 2 stitches below. So you can see we're doing the same exact thing that we did for the very first strap. The difference is this time the strap is not joined to the piece yet. So continue until you have the same exact number of segments as your very first strap, and then we shall attach it onto the outside edge of the second strap. All right, so I have my strap ready. Now I'm going to start attaching from this side. This time I'm going to start from the mesh row. I go in there with 2 single crochets and then continue to single crochet twice in each and every row until when you get to the ring or the center of the dress. Okay, so that way we have the base row running in the same exact direction on both bra cups. And once you finish placing 2 double crochets in the double crochet before the mesh row of the bra cup, you're going to slip stitch onto one of the stitches on the ring. Just make a slip stitch there, make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, leaving behind a tail to weave in. So pull through and look what we have. We have attached our bra cups onto the downer part of our piece. Look guys, looks like a ring. And then we're going to attach our yarn onto the top of the bra cups. So we're going to start with this one. And you're going to go into the 3rd single crochet that was placed into the V-stitch, the topmost stitch. Attach your yarn and then make a chain of 3 and double crochet into the same exact stitch. Now we're going to create the same straps as the ones that we have on the sides of our piece. We're going to do the same exact approach for the upper straps as well. So chain 3, double crochet in the space between the 2 stitches below. So you're going to do this for a total of 30 segments as well, or for as long as you want your upper straps to be. These are going to tie around the neck at the back of the dress. So same exact process, and you can see what my strap looks like. Go ahead and make your strap long, and then also attach to your second bra cup and create your strap, considering the same exact number of segments that you've done on your first one. And then I'll meet you back when I am done with everything.